All right, physical science class. Most of you are working remotely this week, so I am going to talk you through what you're doing. If you have not completed all the items here under getting started, they are due Friday or you get a zero. We are starting today in this unit here, scientific inquiry. I'm going to go into student view and hope the recording keeps going. All right, you're going to click here in student view or in scientific inquiry. These dates may change a little bit. I'm finding that we're getting through material a little quicker, but I'm trying to put dates up here to give you a general idea of when things are to do. You will always click on the e-lessons here. You will go into this one. This is for today and tomorrow. You're going to complete the discussion question first. So you're going to click on the discussion question. You are going to name a hobby or something you enjoy doing, such as a sport, cooking, schoolwork, carpentry, etc. You're going to list all the tools that are necessary for you to do this. List as many tools as you can think of that you would need to do this activity or hobby. Once you've posted, you'll click reply, type it in, and you post it. You'll see if anybody else has put theirs in. You're going to respond. You're going to read your fellow classmates' post. You're going to pick one and comment. Make sure your comment is relevant to what is being discussed. You're not going to just say, oh, this is cool and stuff like this. You're going to actually read it and say, maybe you haven't done this activity and you've read a little bit about it and you say, oh, that is a not, interesting activity. I've never thought about doing this. Or I also play softball. So that's similar to baseball. So I can understand all the equipment that's needed for that sport. So a comment like this. After you do that, you're going to click back on the yellow button. You're I've got an Ed Puzzle video, two of them, and then I have a worksheet, and I have two slideshows. I'm going to attempt to go into the slideshows and talk through them and have it as a part of this recording. I tried it one time and it kicked me out. So let's see what happens this time. So I'm going to click here. It still says I'm sharing my screen, so that's good. All right, let me get back up here to my present. All right. I think I'm going to leave it like this just in case it kicks me out again. So, lab safety. If you were in class, we would talk about signs that you think of that are designated to keep you safe. I think of highway signs a lot of times, or signs that I may see in a hospital or doctor's office. Um, these are signs that probably are universal. And so we have some in science. So here the ones are in red. It's your wear safety goggles, your symbol for lab apron, glassware breakage, heat resistant gloves, electrical shock, physical safety. So you see the all the different symbols. Some of these you should be recognize and be familiar with. You may see them on chemicals or on directions for lab sheets. Dress code for laboratory. You goggles are always you're supposed to wear that to protect your eyes. Lab apron if we're working with chemicals or heated substances. Tying your hair back. Removing anything that might dangle or get in the way that could cause injury. No fooling around. No horseplaying, following directions, listening to teacher, respecting those around you. Do not do your own experiments without the approval of the teacher. We don't eat or drink in the lab. There are chemicals that could have been used on these tabletops, and it's just not, and the equipment is not sterilized. So you just don't eat or drink, or definitely do not taste anything that we do in the lab. If something breaks or you have a spill, you tell the teacher. You always report an accident and we let the teacher clean it up to prevent you from getting injured. There may be a special way we have to clean certain things up, so you need to let us know. Use all your safety gear when you are told to do so. Know where all the safety materials are, the fire extinguisher, eye wash, first aid kit. We do not have a safety shower, safety hood here. Uh, Teamwork, you got to work with others if we were in class doing a lab. So you need to learn to treat and respect each other, treat each other with respect. Always read through the lab experiment. Even if the teacher talks through it, you read it. Don't try to remember what she said. If you don't understand, ask a question. And so if you're working virtually, this goes with any of your work you're doing. You've got to ask a question if you don't understand something. Set up a Google Meet, send a text, email, ask questions. And then at the end, we're always cleaning up. We're responsible for keeping your area clean so that the next group that comes in is able to do that. Always washing hands at the end. You're going to have an activity where you have to pick out issues that are wrong. So I'm going to pause here a minute and just have you kind of get an idea of what you might see going on that's incorrect. And then we're going to talk about them here. All right, so up here at the top, it says, do not fool around during the lab. Okay, so here he is. You can tell he's moving, waving his hands around. Looks like there may be a getting ready to pop a bag or something, and it's going to scare people. Always point test tubes and other items away from yourself and others. So she's pointing it toward herself, even though she has goggles on. If something were to pop out, it could still harm her. Um, Down here, she doesn't have her hair pulled back, so it could easily get in this flame, but she's also got the flame burning and not doing anything with it. So you don't leave it unattended like that. He's eating and drinking and what in the lab while he's trying to work on an experiment. No goggles on these two right here. So when doing an experiment, you got to have goggles on to protect your eyes. So you're going to have some of these where you're going to need to pick these out. So you might want to pull up the PowerPoint that I put um, there so that you can look at that. A couple more examples here. She's not paying attention. She's getting ready to knock this up over. Her hair's not pulled back. There are no goggles. He's pointing the test tube toward her. There's trash on the table. These aren't in test tube racks, so you get the idea. We're looking for things that are wrong. The next one, his hand is wet or the cord is wet, one, and he's getting ready to plug it in, so it's going to be a shock. The cork is not in this and it's sitting on the edge, so that's going to be a problem. We don't drape anything on the eye wash. This knife should not be sticking out. Someone walk by, they're going to get hurt. His goggles are not on, and this is open. Um, Here he's drinking, he's getting ready to plug something in. He doesn't have a good hold on the plug. Again, trash here, drinking. He's smelling directly instead of wafting. Uh, let's see. You may have written scenarios like this as well. So, Hal says it is teachers solely responsible for preventing laboratory accidents. That's incorrect. Everybody is responsible. The teacher's responsible for explaining things to you. You're responsible for following directions. Keisha started the lab activity before reading through it completely. We said that you have to read through it. Ricardo decided to do a lab that he read about before the teacher came into class. You don't do your own lab experience without teacher approval. And Stephanie has safety goggles. She says they're going to mess up her hair, leave raccoon eyes. She's not going to wear them. She has to wear them or she's not going to do the lab. Barbie and Ken break a beaker that with chemicals. They clean it up instead of risking getting in trouble. You need to tell the teacher, report all accidents, let the teacher clean it up so it's cleaned up properly. So you're going to have a worksheet that'll be similar to that you're going to do. Last is some equipment. I like to include the safety equipment just as a review. Goggles, apron, heat resistant gloves. Mortar and pestle here. This is grinding solid substances. A watch glass generally is like a lid for a beaker if you're heating things in there. Graduated cylinder. This is makes precise measurements precise measurements of liquids. Erlenmeyer flask, is mainly for heating liquids, but can measure and hold them. The measure is not precise. Graduated cylinder, precise. Beaker can hold, mix, heat, and measure liquids or solids, but again, mainly probably holding, mixing, and heating. Measuring, it's not going to be as accurate as the graduated cylinder. Test tubes for small reactions, chemical reactions. You would need a test tube holder because usually these involve heat or a clamp here, and then the test tube rack. So those are some things that could be used. Two possible ways of heating. You've got the hot plate, which would be used in our lab here at school because we do not have gas, so we can't use Bunsen burners. But a ring stand and iron ring and wire gauze is what holds the beaker up over the flame if we were to use a Bunsen burner for heating objects. A digital scale or triple beam balance. I have some digital scales, but they're not as precise as maybe the triple beam balance is. Measures in grams. You have your meter stick for measuring length, millimeters, centimeters, or meters, and your thermometer for measuring Fahrenheit and Celsius. Beaker tongs for carrying your hot beakers, a funnel for when you're transferring liquids from a large container to a small so you don't have spills, spatula for transferring solid chemicals from larger containers to smaller, pipette and dropper. We usually use these interchangeably. The pipette will usually have measurements on it so you can measure a precise amount, where a dropper, you're just dropping by drops. There may be a few pieces that aren't listed here, so you might have to do a Google search when you get to that in your assignment. So I'm going to go back here. Um, so I do the two ed puzzles. Let me look at the lab safety worksheet here. Notice the directions, do all of page 1, and even numbers on the second page. You do not have to do all that's on the second page. So again, with this one, because it's a PDF, you're going to use the T tool, the text box tool, and get your text boxes, and you're going to click where you need to put your answers with your T tool. Notice you see these pictures here. You're going to be picking out and answering these questions, typically what's probably going wrong in the lab. Down here, some written out scenarios. You're doing the even ones. So you're going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. And again, you're going to put your text box tool right under here. Remember, your submit button is up here. You're going to submit it, and it'll bring up a second submit window that you click submit in. You'll return back to lesson. And then tomorrow, I have the lab equipment worksheet and the reflection question. But if you get them all done today, that's fine. Um, your lab worksheet is also a PDF. But this time, read the directions up here because there's an image tool that will allow you to search Google for pictures. And so you're going to need to put pictures of some of the equipment here. So you can use the image tool here. You're going to choose Google search, and there should be a way to insert an image that you find from that Google search for each of these. You're going to answer here with a text box. You're going to answer these questions here. And the slideshow may be helpful, as well as listening to this video here. You're going to submit up here like you did before, and then you're going to go back. The last thing is a reflection question here. When you click on it, it's a discussion, and it tells you to create your own unsafe lab scenario. A short 3 to 4 sentences long describing a situation where students are not following the proper lab safety. Once you see your classmates post, you'll read one. You will list the unsafe behaviors that you notice in their write up. Then you're going to check back to yours, and once someone answers, you're going to tell them if they got all of them, if what they wrote is correct or not. So you've got 2 replies I'm looking for this time. Then you're going to click on the back yellow button. And notice for Tuesday, it says next lesson. Click on the yellow arrow, which you don't see here because it's a broken image. I've got to figure out what's going on. And go to the next lesson and do the discussion. So you're going to click here. The next lesson is metric measurements. You'll click here and you will just do the discussion on Tuesday. And then you're finished. So I hope this video helps you for Monday and Tuesday.